It's September, and that can only mean one thing. It's back to school season. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you haven't watched my videos before, then hi, my name is Fleur. This is your space for all things self-development where we focus on growth, mindset and becoming the best version of yourself. Today's video is really special because we're talking about all things back to school, and whether you're starting GCSEs, which is high school for my US viewers, moving into A-levels or what you may call high school / advanced placement, or heading back to university / college, or even a postgrad like me and you don't know what the hell you're doing with your life, I have tips for every single stage to help you feel more confident, organized and ready for the year ahead. So let's get straight to the video. Okay, let's start with the GCSE students because I feel like you guys have to go through a lot. And I remember being a GCSE student and I just remember it being very overwhelming because you're juggling so many subjects at once, but then you're also beginning your journey to figure out what it is that you want to do in your life and who it is that you want to become. So the first tip that I wanted to share with you is to be authentic to yourself. Now, I'm only saying this because I feel like this is the stage of school where it's very easy to get caught up in what everybody else thinks of you or what everybody else wants for you and wants of you. Maybe you might feel the pressure from certain people in your friendship group or people that you're surrounded in to fit in or to act a certain way or to be a certain person. But the best thing that you can truly do for yourself is to be yourself, is to be authentic to yourself, because you are saving yourself so much stress in the long run. Now, a little bit of a story time, but when I was a GCSE student, I was always the person that would have a smile on my face no matter how I felt. You know, that person in the TV series or in the films who just doesn't share anything about their life, and then one day they kind of explode and they're like, no one cares about me and I'm going through this and I'm going through this, and the other characters feel really bad because they're like, I didn't know that. I thought you were just this happy, cheerful person. That was me. And I feel like it's very easy to become that person when you are putting on the persona that you are only a happy person and you don't struggle in your life and you don't go through anything in your life. But that is a misconception. Everybody struggles and everybody is human and everybody goes through something in their life. And I feel like you have to be true to yourself. It's difficult to do that, however, if you do not have the right friends and if you're surrounding yourself by people that aren't really like you at all or don't appreciate you maybe the way that you appreciate them. And so it's very easy when you are that young to get caught up into having that mask and into putting a mask on. But truly, I want you to know that there is so much that you are capable of achieving in your life, but you will never see that for yourself if you don't allow yourself to be yourself. So that is a very important tip. Now, tip number 2 is to balance work with fun. This isn't something I did. Although I have graduated with a first class honours actually this week from my university, I haven't always been a smart student. Now, don't get me wrong, I was a very good student. I was like the teacher's pet. Everybody knew me as a teacher's pet, but it didn't mean that I was the smartest in the class, except for English and the fair few classes that I was really good at. I still struggled. I was bottom set maths and bottom set science, and it didn't matter how hard I tried, I just really struggled at those subjects. And I feel that I had a problem with only focusing on the subjects I actually enjoyed instead of the subjects I was struggling at because I hated the feeling of struggle. You know, I hated being in my maths class and not knowing what the hell I needed to do. I didn't like that feeling. I liked the feeling of knowing what it is that I wanted to do and knowing what it is that I had to do and what was expected of me. I didn't like the feeling of being stuck. So this is the stage where it's really easy to not take these few years of your lives seriously, partly because of what you could be going through at that time in your life, also the pressure around you. And I remember in my maths class, the teacher always used to tell me that if you didn't do well in school, you would be working in McDonald's. She used to tell us that every single day. And I remember there'd be people in the class that would be like, and yeah, what's wrong with working at McDonald's? Like, why is that such a bad thing? Like, why does it have like a bad negative stage around it? And why do we have to pressure people into believing that if they don't do well in this stage in their life, then their whole life is ruined when you're only 14 to 16 years old, it's just a lot of pressure to have on you. And so because of that pressure, you tend to just want to log off when you come back from school, especially if you come from quite a chaotic family environment, which I did. So it was very difficult for me to study because I wasn't in the environment where I could study. And so I wouldn't reach my best capability. I wouldn't reach the levels I wanted to reach. And looking back, I really regret that because I know that I was worthy of so much more. The thing is that you don't need to choose between fun and focus. You don't need to choose between living the life that you want to live and also being an academic weapon. It's more about the balance that you create. And if you create that balance now, you will be literally saving yourself years of stress when it comes to A-level and uni if you go to university, and it will make your future relationship with studying and the academic world even healthier and even better, because you won't see it as this horrible thing, this cloud over your head, which is what I felt with myself. And if I could, I would go back in time and I would tell myself, look, yes, you study hard, but you study hard at the wrong times. You study hard only a week and a half before an exam, and then you stay up all night studying 10 hours a day. And then what ends up happening is I become so sleep deprived. Even though I know all the information, I end up not doing so well on the test because I haven't slept. And I will say that everybody studies very differently. You know, I was the kind of person where it wasn't good for me to do all-nighters, and if I did do them, like I said I had done, I would end up doing badly on the test. But I have a friend in university, she would do all-nighters every single day for like weeks straight before an exam because that's what helped her. She studied better at night. And so understanding how you work is going to help you to create that balance. Now, tip number 3 is to live in the present moment and stop wishing it to go away. Now, I've been bullied at school, okay? I didn't have a great school experience. I was really bullied by my own friends. I didn't really have friends that I felt like really saw me and appreciated me for me. And so when I'm saying this, I'm not saying it because I don't understand and I'm privileged and I had a great school life. I'm only saying it because even though I really hated my days at school and I just wished for them to be over, I would do anything now to just go back and experience just one of those school days, just one of them, because that kind of life, once it is over, it is over. And I'm sure you'll have people in your life telling you, oh, just appreciate it. One day you're going to wish to be back in your era, and you're probably laughing at that because that's what I did whenever my dad used to tell me that. But it's very true. It is so tempting to wish these years away and to just wish that you were an adult and to wish that you were independent and wish you weren't at school anymore, to say, I can't wait for my GCSEs to be over. I can't wait for this to be over. But these are years of your life that you are never going to get back. The people that you see around you, the teachers that are teaching you, everything about your life right now is going to change. And I know that might seem scary, but it's true, and it's going to keep happening. You know, everything that you see around you in A-levels will change. Everything that you see around you at university will change. And then one day you'll just be sat thinking, oh my God, my life has literally flown past me and I'm not in the academic world anymore. And you know how scary that it is for me that for the first time in my life, I'm seeing all of these back to school videos on YouTube and I can't relate to a single one of them because for the first time, I'm not going back to school. And it's like, what the hell? Like, that has literally been my life. And I would do anything to just go back and live one of those days. And my sister, she just went into year 5 the other day and she just said, I'm not looking forward to going to school. And I said, I would do anything to just go back to year 5 for one day. Like, I hated it at the time, and you probably hate it as well. And you're probably watching this video because you want to figure out how can I make it a better experience for myself. But honestly, you will one day wish to be back there, even if you hate it right now. So just enjoy the small things. Enjoy laughing with your friends and discovering hobbies and building memories and your lunch breaks and the lessons that you have and the silly students in your class who don't let you work because they're being clowns and the teachers that you have. Life isn't just about waiting for the next stage. It's about appreciating the current stage as well. And knowing that maybe one day you won't be in this current era of your life, but it's okay because you would have appreciated it to the fullest that you could have. And the 4th tip is that not everyone has to like you, and that's okay. this is a very important one, and sort of linking to the first tip where I was saying that you need to be authentic to yourself, because if you are in a big group of friends that you feel that you need to be a part of because everybody seems to have a big group of friends. I mean, I remember when I was at school, there was the popular kids, there was the weird kids, and of course I was part of the weird kids, you know. I always used to think so highly of the popular kids, even though most of them used to bully me, and I just don't understand why there was that hierarchy in a school. Like, we're all the same kind of people. It doesn't make sense, and I don't feel like, unfortunately, that's ever going to stop happening, because there always has to be a hierarchy in every given situation. Even in friendship groups, I would find that there would be a hierarchy, which is why I don't like friendship groups anymore, and I would rather not be a part of them, because I don't think that they're healthy. And maybe friendship groups can be healthy, but I have never heard of a friendship group being healthy, and I've never heard of a hierarchy not being included in a friendship group. So if you only have 1 or 2 genuine close friends and people that care about you more than anything in the world, you are winning at life, okay? Because I promise you now, those people in that massive friendship group are looking at you, you know, you're spending all your time with this one or these 2 people, and you truly see and understand each other, and maybe you're bullied. But it's just jealousy, because anyone who sees that is going to be jealous of that, because it's all about the quality, not the quantity. And I never understood that. You know, when I was younger, I wanted everyone to like me. I was a doormat. I was a people pleaser. I thought if someone didn't like me, then that said more about me than that did about them. And I would do everything I possibly could to make them like me, even if that meant changing every single part of myself. But that's not how it works, okay? One day you're going to realize, and it's going to hit you, that not everyone can like you, but you know what? That's okay, because you would have done the work to be authentic to yourself, and one day you will find the right people for you. And if it isn't in this era of your life, it will be one day, because I will tell you now, I didn't really find my genuine friends until university. I had a few genuine friends in upper school and also in A-levels and sixth form, but when it came to university, that's when I truly became myself. That's when I truly came out of my own shell. It took me that long to get to that point, but you know what? It's all right, because I learned so many lessons, and I wouldn't go back in time and take that away from myself, because they were lessons that I needed to learn. This video is more about the mindset. It's not really about how you romanticize school. If you're interested in seeing a video where I talk about that, I do actually have some separate videos on my channel of different stages of whatever level you might be when it comes to being at school, on how you can romanticize it and how you can sort of tap into that productive lifestyle. So if you're interested in that, then watch any of these videos. And if you would like me to do an updated romanticizing school life, then just let me know, because that is something that I love doing, and I love romanticizing life, and I specifically love romanticizing the academic world. So just drop a comment down below and I will definitely do that for you. Anyways, section 2, this is for the A-level students and the junior and senior years, for the American people that might be watching this, because I do know that you might be thinking, what the hell is an A-level student? We have different things in the UK, and I just want to make sure that everybody knows that this is for everyone, obviously not just for the A-level students. But let's get into this section, because this is a massive jump from GCSEs, because you're studying fewer subjects but in a lot more depth. There is a massive jump in independence as well. I feel that you will go from GCSE, where you will get help from everyone, and then suddenly you're in A-levels and you're practically alone, and you're learning how to juggle that independence when you've not been used to that independence. So tip number 1 is that you don't need to have it all figured out. When I was in sixth form, I wanted to be a musician. That was like my dream goal. I was studying music, psychology, and English literature, subjects that I really adore and are very close to my heart. And my ultimate dream back then was to work in an orchestra and travel the world and go on these orchestration tours. And I was a cellist. And unfortunately, I let go of that dream because I felt the pressure that I wasn't going to be good enough, especially because I didn't practice enough, I wasn't serious enough. And then I thought, maybe I should be an English teacher, or maybe I should be this, or maybe I should be that. My ideas for my life changed literally every single week. And what really frustrates me is that we seem to think that you have to have your life figured out in sixth form. And unfortunately, you kind of do, because if you want to go to university, you need to know what that one big thing that it is that you want to study is. But I didn't know that. I was between psychology and English my entire 2 years of being in sixth form, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. It's like, you know, when you have short hair and you're trying to grow out your hair, and there's that middle stage, which I'm currently at, that middle stage of where you don't really know, do you want to go back to having short hair, or do you want to grow out your hair? that is sixth form. You're trying to figure out what the hell you need to do with your life, and you don't know where it is that you want to go, but you know what? It's okay. You need to understand that most people don't have it all figured out, and even if they seem to have that 5-year plan, it never actually goes to plan. I know several people that had a 5-year plan, and when I'd spoken to them a year or 2 years later, their whole life had gone upside down because of something that had happened to them, and suddenly that plan was thrown out of the window, and they were just thankful to be alive, thankful to keep surviving. And it's sad, but it makes you realize that you can't ever really plan for life. You don't plan for life. God plans for your life, and you don't know what God has in store for you, so you can't plan for it. I'm not saying don't ever plan. I'm a massive planner. I love planning my life, but I'll only plan to a certain extent of 1 year or 6 months or even a few months or a few weeks. And if you put that pressure on yourself to create that dream plan, you're going to be putting that pressure on yourself to live a life that maybe you don't want to live in 4 or 5 years time. And you always see this in the movies where there'll be this girl who has this plan and she wants to go to this university and she wants to do this, and then suddenly she meets a guy who doesn't have a single plan for himself. They fall in love, and then she realizes, you know what, I need to go with the flow of life because life is short. And it always ends the same way. And it just makes me realize that it's kind of ironic because society wants us to have this big plan, but then at the same time it's trying to sell us the idea of what would life be like if we just went with the flow, even though that's not what society wants us to do. There's always that pull and push of society where you don't really know what to listen to. But honestly, all I can say is that you just need to be listening to yourself and don't pressure yourself into having all the answers right now, because they will come to you when the time is right. Now, tip number 2 is that this is the time of your life where you can try new things and begin to be open to change, because there is going to be a lot of change that is coming into your life soon, especially if you're thinking of going off to university. So this is the time to start experimenting and find out maybe what it is that you want to do with your career, your path, your whole future. And the truth is that most people, like I said, don't have it all figured out. You can find what might be right for you by trying different hobbies, by joining new societies, by talking to different people, by surrounding yourself by different people, and maybe some things will click and some things won't, but that's the point. Because you are allowing yourself to figure out what feels right for you instead of what feels right for other people. What I loved about sixth form is that this was the first time in my life where I really felt like I was beginning to be myself. I started writing poetry, something that I never thought that I would do, and I started expressing myself through the arts of literature, and I was really inventing a new stage of myself, and now poetry is my whole life, and I can't imagine what my life would be like without it. And if I hadn't gone through that experimental stage in my life back in sixth form, I wouldn't be the person I am today. So allow yourself to be open to these new things. Number 3 is to create a routine. Now, this doesn't have to be a rigid or a strict routine, but I feel like having some structure in your day helps you to stay disciplined and motivated and keep up with the workload. And for me, I was only in sixth form for I think 2 or 3 days of the week, and so it might look a little bit different to you depending on the subject that you're studying. Maybe you're in every day, or you're in every other day, or you're in 2 to 3 times a week. I'm not sure what it may look like for you, but creating a routine is really important because it helps you to be grounded when things get busy. So I'm only saying this now because maybe there is a chance that you sort of went through GCSEs not having a routine, because a lot of GCSE students don't, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't have one because you should, but if you haven't had one up until this point, then that's all right. But if you want to go into university feeling prepared, then creating a routine now is going to save you. And I think I didn't really have the same kind of routine in sixth form that I did in my university level, but I was more like making my way up. Maybe in GCSE I wasn't studying as much as I wanted to, so when I was in sixth form I was studying more and I was making sure I gave an equal amount of studying to each subject. But then I realized that maybe the way that I was studying wasn't right for me, or maybe the way that I was deciding to live my life wasn't right for me, and so when I went to university I worked on that. And it's like practice makes perfect, you change as a person, and whatever works for you stick with, and whatever doesn't, you don't. And then that leads me on to the 4th tip: learn what forms of studying works best for you. Now, this could be flashcards, this could be blurting, this could be essay plans, this could be practice questions. Whatever it may be, you have to find what helps for you and what helps keep that information stay in your memory, and not listen to what everyone else is doing. Because I think I used to study for the aesthetic sometimes, which meant that I would do what was aesthetically pleasing and I would do what everyone else was doing. But that wasn't what was working well for me. Everybody works differently. I remember there was this one student where all they needed to do when they were studying was literally just read a book, and they just remembered everything. Now that couldn't be me. I'm a very visual learner, and I also learned through writing, so I would make lots of mind maps. I would do flashcards. I would also see like an essay question and then write the whole answer and sort of keep doing that to practice how I would respond to that answer. And I would also blurt, which is something that my friend told me, which is you have like a blank piece of paper and you think about that topic that it is that you are revising for, or an exam that you're revising for, and you write down everything that you don't know in one color, and then afterwards you come back to it and you write down everything that you missed out and that you need to keep practicing in another color, so that you know what it is that you need to work on. But honestly, there are so many different forms of studying, and this is a stage of a whole new level of independence, and these years are going to help you to start building that independence for when you go to university, and you will then know what kind of methods of studying work for you and what methods of studying maybe don't. So listen to yourself and do what feels right for you. Now, section 3, obviously it is university/college. Now this is a really scary stage, and maybe this can't be relatable for you. Maybe you don't want to go to university, or maybe you are just starting university now, which if you are, I have a whole university video which I made with my friend where we talk about everything to do with university, everything that you could possibly think of, all of the questions that you might have in your mind. So please, I definitely recommend watching that video, because I'm only sharing a few tips here because I wanted to focus on every level of schooling, which is very difficult to do in like a small video. So if you want more tips, then definitely go to watch that video. Let's get started. So tip number 1 is don't conform to social pressure. Now I'm saying this because this is something that I definitely did and I learned the hard way. And this is a big thing at university. Maybe there isn't as much pressure when it comes to GCSE and sixth form, but specifically at university, there is a lot of pressure around the drinking culture, and just because it's seen as socially acceptable doesn't mean you have to join in if it's not your thing. And you need to make sure that you stay true to what feels right for you. So if you've just started university, or you might be, because I know in the UK university doesn't start for another 1 or 2 weeks, so you're still preparing for it, whether in this case you might be watching this video, you haven't started yet. There is this thing called Freshers Week, is when you have a whole week of events that are really just about partying and drinking, and you can even have these like wristbands where you'll be able to go to every single event every single day. I mean, clubbing every single day for a week. And then what can happen is you get this thing called freshers flu, where basically you're just surrounded by so many different people that have come from all over the world and come from all over the country, and of course that means that you're going to get ill because of it, because you're in close proximity. And I remember when it came to my Freshers Week, I only went to one of the events because I felt like I needed to, because if I didn't go, then I wasn't doing what everyone was doing in university. And I enjoyed it. It was actually like one of my first times clubbing, and I think it was like a bubble event where me and my friends went together. There was 2 actually. There was a bubble event one, and then there was also a music one where you had headphones on and you were sort of like dancing, but in reality there was no music playing in the actual room, so everyone looked crazy if you took the headphones off. And I'm not gonna lie, I did find it fun. But I was the kind of person who found it more fun to get ready than I did to actually be in the event. And all of my friends will be able to say that this is right, but throughout my whole experience of university, whenever I went out clubbing, I just wanted to go home after about an hour or 2. I much prefer sitting at home with a book and a nice warm tea and just being by myself. And although people used to call me a grandma, that's what felt right for me. And I think feeling like I could only be cool if I joined into that party culture and that party world made me feel like I wasn't adequate enough, but that isn't true. You need to listen to what feels right for you and don't allow yourself to feel pressured into that. Number 2 is that first year does matter, and everybody is going to tell you that first year doesn't matter, and maybe it doesn't matter grades wise, but it does matter mindset wise. And I truly believe that if you treat first year like it doesn't matter, you are going to be causing yourself a lot of stress when it comes to second year that you don't need. The real jump is not between second and third year, it's between first year and second year. What will happen is in first year, you're sort of going over the basics, maybe some of what you've covered in sixth form, and then when you jump to second year, there'll be a massive workload, like it will double, but then that workload increase will stay the same in third year, and it will just have a little bit of differences in third year because obviously you're focusing on your dissertation as well. There is a misconception that you can treat first year like it doesn't doesn't matter. And it does. It really does matter. And I had a little bit of a different experience because I actually went to university on a certificate, which meant that I didn't have the best grades that I needed to get into the university I wanted to get into. I did really well in psychology and in English, but I didn't do so well in music because of a switch between a teacher and a whole lot of stress that had happened because of that. And that ended up meaning that I went on a certificate, not a bachelor's. And if I didn't pass my first year at university, then I wouldn't be able to carry on. That's a massive stress, right? So basically everyone around me was saying that first year didn't matter. Even the professors were saying that. But I knew that if I treated it like that, then I wouldn't get the grade I needed to get to keep on going. Now, obviously, I worked my ass off. I got that 2-1 and I ended up going on to the bachelor's. But it made me realize that having that mindset of that first year does matter and I need to treat this like any other year helped me so much, because then when I went into second year and third year, I was ready for that jump and I was ready for that workload increase because I'd already been working hard. So if you treat it like it does matter, you will be saving yourself that stress that you won't have to worry about later on down the line. Now, tip number 3 is to use this time to branch out and make new friends with different types of people. But also, if you have to keep on being independent and being alone, then that's fine until you find the right people for you. But I feel like there's so many different ways to meet people at university. There's societies, there's events, there's different ways that you can put yourself out there. I even joined a Taylor Swift society, and I'm crazy for Taylor Swift, and that is where I met one of my best friends who I actually went to the Eras tour with. And there are just so many different ways that you can meet people, and I feel like one of the most important parts of university is not what you're there for, but also to grow as a person and to meet your people. And I'm not saying that you have to come out with it with these 5 best friends, because there is another misconception that university has to be the best few years of your life and that you have to be finding all of your best friends. But sometimes that's not the case, and not everybody's experience at university is going to be that best experience or the experience that you see on TV, and that's okay. Every experience is different, and every experience in life is going to be different, and it shapes you in a completely different way. And I think that that's great because it's unique, and we can all come away from different eras of our life with different things that we've learned. If we all went through the same thing, we wouldn't be able to learn from one another. You wouldn't be able to learn anything from me because we would have had the same experience. So it's truly understanding that maybe you might not meet your people, or maybe you might meet your people, but that's okay, because that's what life is all about. It's not knowing, it's accepting the unknown and allowing it to happen anyways. But if you do want to go out of your way to find people, then there are many ways that you can do this through looking into the societies in your university. And I didn't really get to focus on them that much in third year, and I wish I focused on them more in first year because I wouldn't have had the time later down the line. So definitely look into what societies your university offers. And then the last tip for this section is not to forget to look after yourself and prioritize your mental health, because especially with this increased workload in university from sixth form and even GCSEs, it is very easy to just forget to look after yourself, and it's really easy to fall into the trap of perfectionism, especially for a student that hasn't always done well in school. When it came to university, I felt like if I didn't graduate with a first class honours, which I thankfully have, and I'm very grateful for myself for that, but if I didn't do that, then I would have been seen as a failure. I wasn't even happy with a 2-1. I felt like if I got a 2-1, then I'd failed because I hadn't had a first, and for the first 2 years of university, I was only getting 2-1s and that occasional 2-2 every now and then, and I wasn't really getting any firsts. I think I got 1, and then I was mainly getting them in third year towards literally the last semester, where then all of my assignments were firsts. But until that last semester, I wasn't getting firsts. And so I treated myself like I was a failure because I thought that I had to show up for myself in this era of my life. If I hadn't done it in my GCSEs and in sixth form, I wanted to show that I was capable of being that academic weapon that everyone talks about in at least university. And because of that, I fell into a trap. And I didn't really look after myself and my well-being, and I burnt myself out so badly because I didn't care how I was feeling. I just got up and I kept going and I kept going and I kept going, and I pushed myself to achieve a level of standard that I couldn't reach because it was a level of standard that was impossible for anyone to reach. And so you need to understand that yes, maybe you do want to be your best self, but you also need to prioritize your well-being. And if that means staying in bed or taking care of yourself or just decreasing the studying every now and then so that you can just breathe for a second, or allowing yourself to have fun, or another thing, not feeling guilty when you do eventually have fun with your friends, then let that be the case. And now we have section 4, which is for the postgrads and for the people that have just left university and are like me, maybe searching for a job, or they don't know what they want to do with their life, or they're feeling lost. I thought that I would include this in this video because, although it is back to school season, there's going to be a lot of people like me who are feeling a little bit nostalgic about that and feeling a little bit sad and feeling a little bit left out even, and like suddenly September doesn't have the value that you used to have your whole life. And so this is for you lovely lot. Now, tip number 1 is to allow yourself to grieve. I know this sounds insane. You're like, Fleur, I'm not grieving a person. I'm grieving the academic world. And most people will be happy about that. But if you've been a perfectionist and a teacher's pet and basically obsessed with romanticizing studying your whole life, then yeah, you're going to grieve the academic world. I'm definitely grieving the academic world and that back to school season that I used to love. And it's okay to feel sad that now this chapter in your life has ended, because that means that there's going to be so many new chapters that are now going to open for you and a new version of yourself that you're going to unlock. It's like a game, You have now reached a new level where you get to work on a new version of yourself, and that's really exciting. And sometimes you have to acknowledge that instead of just pushing it down, and know that acknowledging it is the first step to moving forward. Tip number 2 is to redefine success on your own terms. Now, one of the hardest parts about leaving university is feeling like everyone else has their life together. And that could be in jobs, careers, relationships. But the truth is that most people are figuring it out as they go. And everybody is just putting on the same facade that you're kind of putting on to pretend like you know what it is that you want to do with your life, when in reality you don't. I'm surrounded by so many people who already have a full-time job. And I'm over here, technically I'm not unemployed. I do have a part-time job, but it isn't in an industry that I want to keep working in. And I'm still looking and I'm still figuring out what is it that I want to do with my life. And I know that my passion is YouTube and the podcast and social media, but there's also that element of being realistic. And I really want to stay true to my dream self, because I've given up on her for so much of my life. And I believe that your 20s is your years of trying, and if you don't try now, how can you know that it's not right for you? And how can you know that that life isn't meant for you if you're not even giving it a chance to show you that? So you can't let other people's timelines or expectations define yours. You have to know that success doesn't look the same for every single person, and that you aren't behind, you're just at a different stage of your book. You can't look at somebody's chapter 7 and think, why am I still at chapter 2? The book has started at different points, and maybe you will be succeeding when someone else isn't succeeding, but they will be succeeding when you're not succeeding, and that's okay. You can define what that success means to you. Maybe success means waking up in the morning and brushing your teeth, or maybe success means applying to 5 jobs or applying to 10, or maybe success means working on your hobbies and reconnecting with your inner child again. You get to define that. And the third tip is to stay curious and to explore. Now, just because you've left the academic world doesn't mean you have to stop learning or growing as a person. This could be your opportunity to take new courses, to try new hobbies, to volunteer, explore different jobs, to go back to your inner child, to go back to the things that you used to love but couldn't focus on because of school. And this truly is the era of discovery, and it's about knowing that it's okay. Maybe you haven't reached that end goal yet. Maybe you're still figuring out what you want to do in your life, but you have to think of this chapter as experimenting with your life, and that is something to be excited about, even if it feels really nerve-wracking. I know when I came out of university and throughout my whole summer, I have felt like I needed to know what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go and what kind of person I wanted to be, and I had that pressure on myself, when really I just needed to allow myself to live that slow life and figure out, okay, what makes me happy, what feels right for me, what lights my spark, what makes me feel fiery, what makes me excited to get out of bed in the morning. And sometimes you can't know that until you stop the voice of society trying to tell you what it is that you should be doing with your life, because the only person that can know that is you. And the last tip for this section and for this video is to protect your energy from judgment and criticism. Not everybody is going to understand your journey, and some people will want to project their fears or expectations onto you. And specifically, when you've come out of university, when you're in GCSEs, people are telling you, you need to go to sixth form. And then when you're in sixth form, people are telling you, what university are you going to? Or what do you want to study at university? And then you think that once you finish university, that it's all going to stop. But now people are asking you, what job do you want to go? And, where do you want to go in life? It's difficult. It's challenging, it's annoying, it's frustrating. You just want to be able to live in your own bubble without people telling you how you should or shouldn't live your life. But I promise you that that is only happening because everybody has their own perception of life, and everybody has their own perception of how they should be living their life and how everyone else should be living their life. And everybody has different lessons to learn from their own life, and they're just applying them to your life because that's the only way that they know how to live their life. So when they see you coming up with this new way of living and having all of these dreams, they get scared by that because they've been in that stage of their life and it didn't go well for them. So how can it possibly go well for you? You can't let that judgment or criticism stop you from doing what it is that you want to do in your life. It is a test. If you believe in God, then think of it as God testing you to see whether that path is right for you. I've had so many tests when it comes to social media and YouTube. So many tests, so many people judging me, so much criticism of people telling me I'm wasting my time. But you know what? It's not wasting my time if this is what makes me feel passionate about life, if this is what makes me feel happy. And if I've found that, then you can too. And that brings us to the end of the video. I really hope that it helped and that you are feeling motivated and excited for this back to school season, or a little bit more comforted and reassured if you aren't going back to school, because you know what, it's okay to be in a new chapter of your life. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment down below on what it is that you learnt in this video. Also pop this emoji in there as well so that I know that you've reached the end of the video, and subscribe to my channel for more content like this, and I will see you next Sunday at 12 p.m. Bye bye my lovelies.